crowd. So a lot of you are from the US or the UK or Australia, but we also have some of you from more exotic countries. So hopefully you can spot your flag like Argentina, Ecuador, Venezuela, or Japan. And the reason I'm showing you this is for me, my best way to welcome you to this class, but also to tell you that everything you are going to learn today is going to be applicable wherever you are in the world. And that's the beauty of coding. There's no border and everything is applicable there. So welcome everyone. So myself, my name is Mathieu. You can call me Matt. I'm French. You might have picked up my French accent. I have a master's degree in computer science from Montreal. So I did the typical path, which is going to university for 5 years. But actually, I didn't know how to code. So I moved to Australia and I became a full stack engineer. So I basically got a job and I worked for 5 years to become a full stack engineer. And if you don't know what full stack means, I'll define this a little bit later, but I'll also tell you why I think it's a bad idea. But after this, I became an open source contributor, so I decided to give a lot of my code away, and I will define exactly what open source and GitHub are, so you have a better idea why do we have source code that is open. But I did this to get a name out there in the industry, so I could get approached by companies like Airbnb or Google. And eventually, I moved to the US, which was a dream for me, and I moved to Silicon Valley to build my company. So I joined a school called Y Combinator, which helps developers like me to turn our ideas into businesses. And actually, you'd be surprised to know that a lot of businesses that you use on a daily basis are built by developers like me, and like Airbnb or Dropbox or other ones like Reddit, etc. went through the same school as me. And the reason I'm showing you this is because a lot of people think that developers are antisocial or we like to play video games, but actually a lot of us, and a lot of you probably, like to travel, build companies, dance, have fun. So the cliche is not true anymore, but that's something that I like to mention here. So what I did there is I started my company called uplabs.com, and I don't want to promote it here because it's not relevant, but I just want to show you something cool about this website here. So I've built a whole thing, and this website has over 1 million visitors a month, and people are buying and selling stuff on there. So it's like Spotify, but not for music, but for Photoshop files. And the reason I'm showing you this is because this whole website, which has millions of visitors, is completely automated. So I've built it in a way so it runs by itself. It's a profitable American company, but since I have a lot of time thanks to code, now I can do other things. So code is very powerful, especially when it comes to automating things. So I started to learn how to teach and became a teacher for SheCodes as a full-time, and now I'm working full-time for SheCodes, which is my new adventure. I'm also learning salsa, but I suck at it. So, all right, so let's talk about definitions. I think it's very important that all of you understand clearly those definitions, because I hear a lot of people getting confused about this. So first of all, let's talk about the job titles first. So front-end engineers, engineers, developers, coders, programmers, software architects, hackers, whatever names I haven't mentioned, are all the same things. We don't have any clear or official distinctions between jobs. So it's not like lawyers and judges. We don't have any official titles. So it really depends on the market where you live or where you want to go. So for example, in the US, they call developers engineers usually, or in Canada, it depends on where you go. In Australia, it will be developers. In Europe, sometimes it's developers, but it really depends on the market. Now, we have a distinction between junior developers and senior developers, but usually the junior developers are starting and senior developers have 3 to 5 years of experience. But again, it's very subjective, and anyone can call themselves an engineer. We don't have an official certification or an official title, just to make it clear. Now, every time we write code, right, we write code for a specific platform or a specific environment. They are the same things. So we have different platforms, and we usually specialize in one platform. So you know those platforms because you've been using them for years now. The most common one is called the web. So this platform is the browser, like Safari, Chrome, etc. So all these browsers, this is for the web platform. That's something you should keep in mind. So web developers are just writing code for browsers, right? We don't call them web developers anymore. We have different titles, but I'll talk about this in a sec. We also have iPhone developers. We don't call them iPhone developers. We call them iOS developers, Android developers, but also Xbox developers, PlayStation developers, Mac developers, Tesla developers, SpaceX developers, you name it, Nespresso, Boeing, etc., etc. So we just specialize in one platform. Now, when you want to learn how to code, like most of you, you want to start learning a platform that is fun but doesn't require you to buy a new computer, for example, or buy a Tesla if you want to write code for Tesla. What you want is you want to have something that is fun to learn, a platform that is getting a lot of traction, but you don't have to upgrade your computer, and that one is definitely the web. The web is already installed on your computer in the sense that you just have to have a browser to get going, and it's a really fun platform to learn with. And anyway, if you want to transition to another platform in a few years or in a few months, let's say you want to learn how to build iPhone apps, they're all using the same science under the hood. It's called computer science. So it's very easy to transition from one to another one. So you don't have to worry too much about it. Just start with the web. All you need to get started is just a browser, either Safari, Firefox, Chrome, Edge, or Opera. But I definitely suggest Chrome, but we'll talk about this later. You don't have to have a Mac. You don't have to have a Linux or Windows. Your computer is fine how it is, and you don't have to buy a new one. So what is a programming language, by the way? So every time we have to write code, we have to use a coding language or a programming language. It's just like when we speak. Myself, I speak English right now, but I also speak French and I speak a bit of Portuguese. And when we write code, we also use different programming languages, but they are not called Italian, they are not called French, they're called Java, C++, C, Swift, Python, JavaScript, Go, you name it. A lot of languages that usually were created in the 90s. And but there are some slight distinctions with real languages like English. So first of all, they all have strengths and weaknesses. So Java is very good for enterprise software. So it's very secure, very safe, very stable. So it's good for ATMs, for planes, for Android. C and C++ have very fast calculation. So they're very good for math. Go, it was created by Google, so it's really fast for the web. Python is good for data. So it's used a lot for Excel files and stuff like this. COBOL is used by old banks. JavaScript is used on the web or everywhere. PHP is used by Facebook. Swift is used by Apple. So you can already see some patterns that some company prefer some languages, or they even created them, or some languages are good for specific platforms. Now, the good news is they all look very similar from one to another one. First of all, they all use English, so you don't have to worry about the language. They all use English, and actually American English, but we'll talk about this in a sec. Now, the second thing that I want to mention here is they are very similar from one to another one. They are so similar that you can sometimes get confused on which one is which. So myself, I can look at some code and I'm like, I'm not sure if this is Java or like PHP or something like this. So I'll be a little bit confused. They are very similar. So it's very easy to transition from one language to another one. Knowing this now, what you should keep in mind is you just want to focus on learning one, ideally a language that is getting a lot of traction in the market, that is modern. And eventually, if you have to switch to another one, you can switch in a matter of weeks. It's not like switching from English to French, which would take you maybe months or years. So which one should you start with if you want to learn how to code? Well, the solution to this question is very simple. It should be JavaScript. JavaScript has been getting a lot of momentum. It was created a long time ago, but since 2015, it's changed a lot, thanks to Facebook mainly. And it's used on most websites that you use on a daily basis. You are using it right now to watch this class, and you use it multiple times a day. You just don't even know about this. It's used everywhere, and we'll talk about this later, and I'll show you an example. Now, it's a fun language to learn, and it's also getting a lot of traction with the market. We'll talk about the trends a little bit later. Now, I know that a lot of people are suggesting you to learn Python or Java or I don't know, Kotlin or any languages, but I don't think those languages are good to learn with. I think they are boring and you have to install something on your computer. And I'll show you also an example to send you the gift. I'll use one of those languages, and you'll see that it's not as fun to learn with as JavaScript. Now, JavaScript is a good idea because it's a modern language and it's very similar to any other modern languages. So it's a very safe bet, and it's already installed on your computer. So whenever we write code for the web, I told you earlier that we don't call developers web developers. We call them front-end developers and then back-end developers. It's very important that you understand this because we have the two distinctions in the market, and you will see these words coming across many times. So what do they do? Why do we need two types of developers to build a website? So the first one, the front-end developers or the front-end engineers or the front-end devs or the front-ends, they usually do what you see. They work on what you see and what you can interact with. So if we can picture in our mind Netflix.com, right? Or YouTube.com if you don't use Netflix. What you will see on Netflix.com, the front-end engineers will take care of making sure that you have a black background, you have images and of movies. When you click on a movie, it starts playing as full screen. and then I don't know, you click on the link and it goes to another page. This is the job of a front-end developer. They take care of interactions and anything that you can see. Now the backend developers on the other side, they take care of what you don't see. They take care of what's happening under the hood. They work on the server side. So we also call this the cloud. So they make sure that the videos are working and they're really fast when you play them. They make sure that your credit cards and your passwords are stored securely. They try to give you good recommendations, although Netflix recommendations are not the best. And this is what the backend developers are doing. They do stuff that we don't see. So usually the front end are more creative developers. They like to play with colors and styling. And then backend developers are more analytical. They like to play with data, like Excel file. They like to make things fast, or usually some of them like math, for example. So both jobs are paid really well. Both jobs are highly demanded. And then if you know both jobs, if you're front end and the back end, we call you a full stack engineer, just like myself. But it's a bit of a trap because you don't get paid twice as much. It takes a long time to learn. Now, just to give you an idea, I like to share this idea, but usually the front-end developers don't have beards and the back-end have beards, but that's a cliche, so it's wrong, but that's something I've noticed. So now, where should you start? So if you don't know where to start, or even if you think that you are analytical, you should always start with front-end at the beginning. If you don't have any knowledge about coding, or if you've tried but it didn't work out, front-end is the way to go because it's fun, and it's going to be useful even if you want to become a back-end developer eventually. You just want to make the switch after a few months. All right, so let's take an example of the most popular website on the web. So google.com is the most popular website on the web, and they have front-end and back-end engineers. The front-end engineers at Google are going to make sure that you have some white space on this page, that the image is centered, that we have some space here, some shadow. They will make the button look gray, and then they have a footer. That's the job of a front-end engineer. Also, when you type something on Google, it gives you suggestions, and then you select one, and then it reloads the page, and then it shows you results. So this is the job of front-end developers, okay? The back-end developers, they will take care of making sure that you get good recommendations, right? So you type something and then they give you some sort of recommendation. It goes to a server, which looks like this here. And these are computers that Google owns, for example. It goes to one of those computers, and then they try to know which links they should suggest to you, and they send back some information to the front-end engineer so they can show it to you to the browser. So the backend developers are more working on those computers, which we call the cloud. So this is where internet happens, basically. So you might be thinking, where are those computers? So first of all, those computers don't have screens. They're very powerful. We call them servers, and they are in the middle of nowhere. They're usually owned by either Amazon, Google, or Facebook, or Microsoft, and those servers are in warehouses in places where there's no earthquake, no war, nothing happening there, like in the north of Virginia in the US, or in Alberta in Canada, or in the Netherlands in Europe. And those servers are very powerful. But now you might be thinking, okay, this is cool, but if I want to become a backend engineer, do I have to move there physically? And the answer is no, you don't have to move there, because you can't even see them. We just have to, you can work on them remotely, so from anywhere around the world. So you don't have to worry about this, and you don't have to move there. I'll show you an example how we can connect to those servers later. All right, so let's talk about front-end now. So whenever we write code for front-end development for a website, we have to use 3 distinct languages. So HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are 3 languages. And you have to learn those 3 languages. So these are the only languages that a browser understands. So Safari or Chrome, so let's take the example of Chrome, only understands HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It doesn't understand anything else. So it's like me, I only understand French, English, and Portuguese. If you start speaking to me in Italian, I will not understand it. Now, you might be telling, okay, hold on a sec, you just told us earlier that I should learn 1 language, and now you're telling me to learn 3 languages. You're full contradiction. Well, give me a sec. So HTML and CSS are not programming languages. They are coding languages, but they are not programming languages. What's the difference? Well, they are pretty dumb. Pretty much, they're pretty stupid. They don't know too much about the world, and they do 2 things really simply, where JavaScript is a programming language, just like Python or Java or PHP, where those languages are a lot smarter. So let me give you an example. Let's picture a website in our mind, like a news website, okay? So New York Times or whatever news website in your local area, wherever you live, you like to check. So you will first see headlines, and then headings or paragraphs, and then images. This is going to be made by HTML. This is going to be the role of HTML to make sure that you can see those headlines and then everything that structures the page. Now, the second layer, which is called CSS, is going to add styling to this page. So it's going to add colors, font sizes, typography, spacing. All this stuff is going to be taken care of by CSS. So if we take the analogy of your human body, for example, HTML will be your bones because it's the structure of the page, the structure of your body. CSS will be your skin, your clothes, your makeup, because it's what we see. And then we have JavaScript, which is the third layer, which is an invisible layer, but it's going to make everything work. So for the analogy of your body, it's going to be your organs and your muscles. So JavaScript has access to your keyboard, to your mouse, or it knows when you click, when you use your finger on your phone, for example. And it also has access to the current time. It knows what language you speak, your time zone, where you are in the world. So it's a lot more powerful. So going back to the analogy of your news website, JavaScript is going to take care of the behavior of the page when you click somewhere or when you search something and then something pops up. So again, we have those three languages, HTML and CSS and JavaScript, which are the only languages that a browser understands, but this is making internet. So you go to Google Maps, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, any websites, they will use those three languages. All right, so let's go into something that is really interesting to me, is the tools and technologies. So a lot of people think that we have to use a lot of different softwares to get coding, and it's very complicated to get started. But you'd be surprised how simple it is to get started these days, and you can just get coding right away. So let me talk about this. So first of all, you don't have to be, or we don't have to be as developers to be the person on the left here who is someone who likes to play with printers and old computers and cables. Myself, I don't know how to install my uncle's printer every time I go to Christmas in France, and I don't really enjoy printer cables and stuff like this. So if you like to play with computers, it's okay, but it's not going to be a sign of success. Now, the second picture here on the right, as you can see, is a guy who is in Hawaii or in Bali and then coding on the beach and then sending screenshots, or maybe taking selfies on Instagram and showing off how much money he's making. This is not true either, because you can't really write productive code in this environment. So a more accurate picture here, and I think it resonates a lot with me, is this woman here who is working in front of two screens, and she has one screen where she has some code, and then the other screen which has GitHub, which we'll talk about in a moment, and also she has anything related to communication. So she's at a corporate job, just like any other jobs today. She's probably working from home. Nothing really changes. She's on Windows, but she could have been on Mac or Linux, because you don't have to have a new computer to write code. It's actually not very intensive in terms of computer power, and she's really concentrated now to write code. She has two screens here because she likes to have code in one screen. But myself, I only use one screen. You don't have to have two screens. It's completely optional, and I see less and less people doing this, by the way. All right, so let's get started. So now, how about the softwares? So let's pick an example. So let's say you want to write a book tomorrow. Okay, so you have this idea, you want to write a book. You would have two options. You would have the first option in terms of what tool you want to use. The first option will be, I'm going to use a pen and a paper. The second option that you have is, oh, I will use Word or Google Docs. And the reason you probably pick the latter, it's because Google Docs or Word will help you organize your files into different chapters, or your and also it will identify your typos. So it will be kind of an assistant for you to write your book. So it would be crazy not to use Word or Google Docs if you had to write a book. And it's the same thing for code. So Word is a text editor where these softwares here that we use to write code, we call them coding editors. And they are very, very powerful because they really assist us, just like Word would assist us when we write code, when we write text, sorry. So the one that we use and I highly recommend is called VS Code or Visual Studio Code. It's made by Facebook, by Google, by Microsoft. I'm confused between all these companies. It's made by Microsoft. It's free, it works on Windows, on Mac, and also on Linux, and it is crazy. It is really, really good. It's crazily good in the sense that you don't want to learn how to code without that stuff. It's crazy. I see a lot of other people online that teaching you how to code in the browser, but I think it's suicidal because it's very hard to learn in the browser. But I'll show you later the power of VS Code. Now I'm just going to open it here. You can see, and later I will do some live coding using this. But it looks like Word. You can type some stuff. It's just black, but you can change the colors. So we use this, and then after this we also use a browser. It's very important to test your website when you build it, and the browser that we use by far, which is the best, is Chrome. So Chrome is great for two reasons. The first reason is it's used by 65% of the internet population. So if you build something that looks good on Chrome, you're on the right track. But also it's because it has something called the developer tools. So let me show you how it works. So here I've just clicked right and clicked on inspect, and you can all do that, by the way. And here I can see the code of this page under the hood, and I can interact with it. So this is the HTML of the page. So that's my code actually that I wrote. And I can move things around. I can rename her name if I wanted to. So I can remove her last name. And I can do a bunch of stuff. But now you might be thinking, okay, this is cool. Maybe this is where you code. No, we don't code in here. We just use this to reverse engineer our code or the code of someone else. I could do this on the New York Times if I wanted to. So the reason we use this is because we can see how things are made, and we know how we can improve this. So here, if I reload the page, everything will go back to normal on how it used to be. So we actually have to write code in a coding editor, but this is a way for us to understand how the page is made. And again, you can do this on any website. And it's very good if you are into marketing or design. It's a very good tool to learn. Then we use GitHub. So GitHub, you might have heard of this. It's also owned by Microsoft, and this is where, I'm not affiliated, by the way, so this is where we store our code. So GitHub is like YouTube, but not for videos, but for code. So whenever we want to store our code, we don't use Dropbox or we don't use Google Drive, we would use GitHub. So myself, for example, I've built a lot of my code, and every time I store it on GitHub just in case my computer dies or gets stolen. But also, every time you put some code on GitHub, you have two options. The first option is you decide to keep it private, so it's only you who is going to have access to your code. But the second option is you are going to decide if you want to make it open source. Do you want to make it public? So open source means that you are making the source code or the code open. And the reason you would do this is because you want to get some visibility online. You want to get traction from other, or the attention from other potential employers or other developers. So I did this with this project, and it got really popular, and that way I got approached by big companies. But it's not just people like me who like to use GitHub to promote themselves. It's also companies like Google or also Facebook. So Facebook, for example, which is here, decided to open source the most popular open source project right now, which is called React, which is a piece of code that they've built and they use on Instagram and then also on Facebook, which makes the application a lot faster and a lot more manageable in terms of development. So they decided to open source this piece of software, and now everyone is using this, like Walmart, Uber, Skype, New York Times, Airbnb, myself, because they've open sourced it. So why wouldn't we use the code from Facebook? But now you may be thinking, hold on a sec, why would Facebook open source some of the code? And the reason they do this is because they expect developers like this guy here who help them fixing their bugs, and then they will try to hire them. So it's a recruiting strategy. So they like to build a name in the community of developers, and then the community of developers, and then they try to hire them like this. And a lot of companies are using this strategy to hire engineer. All right, so that's all we use. We use VS Code, we use Chrome, and then we use GitHub. And that's it. So now I'm going to use those three tools here to show you how I would build something from scratch. So what I want to do is I want to build something that you can see with me at the same time that I'm going to build this, but also something that at least you could follow along with what I'm doing. So just try to be concentrated and follow along with me, and I will use those three tools that I mentioned. So I could build this page about anything, and that's the beauty of coding. You could do anything. And the beauty of this is that I could pick like Greek yogurts or salsa or New York or Japan. I'm just going to do it about yoga, but I could do it about anything, okay? So the first thing that I will do here is I will just create a new file in my VS Code, and I will call this yoga.html. So let's do this. So we have yoga.html, and now that I have this file, I'm going to open this file on my computer, just like you would do it on your on a different software. Okay, so I'm just going to open this, and as you can see here on the left side, I have the result of my code. Right, it's empty, so it's empty. But now if I just type yoga, okay, try to follow along here. Now yoga is going to appear there. So on the left side, it's a web page, it's a website. So I have yoga there and yoga there. What I could do here is I could add a yoga emoji. That's not a problem. And then this is going to appear. But what we used to is, let's say I want to make this a heading, right? I want to make this bold and bigger. I want to make this the main title of the page. What we used to in Gmail or in Word is we just used to highlight something and then click on the button so we can make it bolder or bigger, right? So in here, we can't do this. You see nothing appears, so we have to use code for this. So to make it a a heading, we just have to type this, and I'll show you how we could make this better in a sec. But here I'm typing H1. But if you think about it, H1 is actually based on English words. I mentioned earlier that all the code that we write is based on English. So H1 stands for heading 1. So actually, those annoying characters that look like math, I don't have to worry about it because I'm using VS Code, so I can just type H1 and then everything appears and I can just move yoga in it and everything is fine. So I just have to focus on, okay, I want to make this a heading and that's it. All right, so let's do some research. What is yoga? And now I'm going to find some information. So yoga is a discipline, okay? Let's do this. So I'm going to type H2 here, and because it's a heading 2, and I'm going to have discipline in it. Because it's an H2, it's smaller, but still big, right? If I had used an H5 here, for example, it would have been even smaller, but still bold. So H2, H5 stands for heading. Okay, so that's good. So we're making a lot of progress. And now what I'd like to show you is how we can keep building the structure of this page. So this is HTML, and we'll build something. So I'm going to steal this paragraph here from Wikipedia, and I'm going to move this inside a paragraph here. I'm going to type P, which stands for paragraph, and now the paragraph appears here. So that's pretty cool, right? So this is HTML. So this is HTML, what I'm writing here. And this is how all the websites online where you're going are built. They have to use HTML. This is pure code. And this is actually the body of my HTML. Okay? Remember I told you the analogy of your human body, and there you go. I'm not making it up here. So now what we could do is we could add a nice little image of yoga maybe. How about a yoga posture or something? So I'm going to do a research here about yoga, and I will try to steal an image from a website, and we'll have a look here. Let's try to find where we have those images. Okay, they have a bunch of images, so we'll pick this one here, and I will just copy the URL here, and I want to add the image here. So I'm just going to type img here, which stands for image, paste the URL here inside src, which stands for source, and now the image appears. Pretty cool. But the image is really big, isn't it? It's taking a lot of space. No problem. We can just say, okay, I want the width of this to be 300. Okay, I reload, and now it's a lot smaller. Okay, very good. So we can use plain English to write code. This is the beauty of things. You see, now that we don't have to write those annoying characters, we have a lot of assistance. We just have to focus on the content of our page. So let's keep building this. So I'm going to add a couple of line breaks here. So BR stands for line breaks. And I'm going to say, learn more on Wikipedia. We could have a link to the Wikipedia page of yoga, if I can type. Okay, very good. So now I have a text, but when I click on it, nothing happens. So how can I make it work? Well, let's find the URL to the Wikipedia page. So I will have this here. I get that URL, that's pretty good. And now I have to make this a link. I wish this was called link, but it's actually called A, but we have to deal with it. So I'm just using A here, which stands for anchor link. And I'm going to have the URL here in the href, which stands for hyperlink reference, super nerdy, but we have to deal with it. But as you can see here, I was using VS Code, so I just pressed A and then it's just expanded everything, so you don't have to worry too much about it. So now when I click on this, what's going to happen? Now it goes to Wikipedia. And guess what? This is an H1. These are links. This is a paragraph. This is how all the websites are built. I can actually show you this to you. So you would actually, using the inspector, we would see that this is an H1 here. I don't know if you can see this, but I'm just going to zoom in here, and this is an H1. And here we have links, and if I have a look here how things are made on Wikipedia, I can see that this is a link. This is how internet is built. It's pretty fascinating, and we get paid for that. All right, so let's keep going. So now what I could do is I could add a little button here that is going to say subscribe to our newsletter or go to a yoga class. Okay, so now we have a button. Nothing happens when we click on it. That's fine. And I'm going to add a footer here coded by SheCodes. I reload, nothing happens there. We could make this a link. So I'm going to create that a link just like before. And here this is going to be to HTTPS and then www.shecodes.io. Okay, so let's test it. It's always good to test your code. Writing code is always half of the job. And now I tested, and this goes to SheCodes. That's pretty good. We could add an emoji here, the SheCodes emoji, and then try again, because you wouldn't want to build a website without emojis. And that's it. So we have the structure of our page, the bones of your body. I have a student one day, she said, HTML will be the walls of a house, CSS will be the painting of the house. So let's do the painting now. So I'm going to add inside the head some styling here. This is going to be CSS, so it's going to be a new language. It's like switching from English to French, but you'll see it's still English. So now what I'm saying is I want my H1 to be text align center. Okay, so let's have a look. Now this is centered. It's pretty cool. Now I can change the color here to red, for example. What's going to happen? Now this turned red. But let's say you're from the UK and then I decide to type color like this. What's going to happen? Well, it's ignoring it. Nothing is burning, my computer is still fine, but it just ignored it. But you can see here that VS Code has identified my my typo here. So I can just fix this here and everything will go back to normal. So we have to use American English. It's very important. Now I can change the color. We have access to 16 billion colors. And this is a blue violet now, my favorite color, and it's working. Now we could do the same thing with the H2 and keep coding here and keep styling everything. So I'm going to style this, center this here, as you can see. And this is going to be centered. I can also add a border here around this. You can already guess what this is going to do. But the border and the PX stands for pixels. It's going to add a border around it. Now we could add some spacing, and everything is using plain English. We don't have to use math. We don't have to use any other languages. Even me as a French, as a French guy, I have to use English. Okay, so what we could do is we have to use a border radius here to make this look a little bit better. But at this point here, so I'm adding some rounded corners around this. But at this point here, what I want you to realize is that it's very creative. You can do whatever. The possibilities are endless. That's what I wanted to do. So let's work on the image now. So I think this image here could be full width. So let's do this. So I'm going to say I want this to be 100%. You following? And now this is 100%. And I'm also going to add some border radius around it so it looks a little bit nicer. So now the image is nice and it can be resized like this. I'm just going to close this stuff here. And we have this image that is looking better and better. Now, how about the paragraph? I think the paragraph is a little bit too big, so I can change the font size easily and then type 13 pixels. Oh, that's too small. Maybe 15. Okay, 14 would be good. And I think it's a little bit too compressed, too compact. So I'm going to increase the line height here, so to give some space. Okay, finally, let's work on this button. It looks pretty raw, pretty boring. So I'm going to say, oh, I want the button here to be full width. Okay, just like we did with the image. So we always do the same things. We don't have to memorize everything. Rarely we don't. My memory personally is pretty bad. So here I'm going to change the background color to blue violet, and you can see how VS Code is trying to guess what I'm going to write. So now here I'm changing the color to white, removing the border, and I'm styling this button slowly but surely. So I can add some padding again. Maybe increase the font size. What do you think? Okay, that's pretty good. You can add some border radius. And lastly, I'm going to use a pretty recent technique, which is going to add some shadow on this button. So behind this button, just like Google did. So to do this, we have to use box shadow. And then here, this would be 15 pixels. I can make it up. And then RGBA 0. It's a bit more fancy, so CSS is getting a little bit more sophisticated these days. But RGBA stands for red, green, and blue. So everything, again, makes a lot of sense. So you just have to learn it the right way. Okay, so now we have some shadow behind my button. Okay, I think I know what I did here. Okay, that's much better. And I'm going to now style the footer. Okay, so let's do this. So what I could do for the footer is I could maybe center the text. So footer. Text align center again, and I think it's a little bit too big because it's a footer for She Code, so I can just decrease the font size to 12 pixels just to make it a little bit smaller. All right, so we've built the structure and the styling of the page, or the painting and the walls, and now we have to add the electricity level to the house, or the muscle layer, or whatever. So that's a JavaScript, because when I click on this here, nothing happens. So we have to have JavaScript here to make it work, because nothing happens. So here I'm going to write some JavaScript, and bear with me, this is impossible that you understand this at this stage, so don't worry too much, but I will just say out loud what I'm doing. So first of all, I'm saying, okay, code, I'm going to target on this page the button. Okay, now what I'm saying after this, okay, let's remove this stuff. Okay, that's good. I will say, OK button every time someone clicks on you. So every time a user clicks on the button, subscribe this user. So we can subscribe you to a newsletter or something like this. But this is a functionality that the computer doesn't know, so we have to teach this function. So what I'm saying here is, what could subscribe mean? Maybe it could ask for your email. Yeah, that's a pretty good idea. So we can do this. What is your email address? So let's have a look. You'll see just this 5 lines of code or 4 lines of code is going to change entirely the behavior of the page. So I click here, and now it asks for my email. That's pretty cool. So now I type matt@cheatcodes.io. Nothing happens. So what else could we do? Maybe we could ask for your name before. Okay, let's do this. What is your name? I reload. What is your name? My name is Matt. My email is matt@cheatcodes.io. But now it doesn't say anything. Okay. Oh, what we could do is maybe we could show a confirmation message. All right, that's simple. So I can say, thanks, Matt. We'll be in touch. All right, so let's have a look. I click here, matt@cheatcodes.io. And thanks, Matt. We'll be in touch. Now, if I try this with one of your names, then I could try something like Anna. So if I try Anna like this, and then your email is anna@gmail.com, the problem with this is that it's going to say, thanks, Matt. We'll be in touch. It's not great. So the beauty of code is you can play around with data very easily. So I can create a new variable here, which is like a box where we store stuff. And instead of saying thanks, Matt, we are going to say, if I can type, we are going to say thanks, name. Whatever name the person typed is going to be rendered here in this message. You following? So here I say, what is your name? My name is Anna. And then my email is anna@gmail.com. And now it's going to say, thanks, Anna. We'll be in touch. So now it's time to improve our user experience, our UX. I think we could add something like, oh, meanwhile, don't forget to breathe, or wash your hands, or I don't know, you could do anything. Don't forget to breathe. And we could add an emoji here. Or do we have a breathing emoji? No, we don't have. So we can just add a yoga emoji. Okay. Very good. So I'm just improving the user experience to add a final touch on this. And I can try again, matt@cheatcodes.io. And thanks, Matt. We'll be in touch. Meanwhile, don't forget to. It's always good to test your code for this exact reason, you see. Okay, so that's good now. Everything is working fine. Now you might be thinking, where's this email going? Well, we have to talk about API in a sec. But this is pretty much what we do as professional developers. We write code and we had those 3 layers to the code. And that's pretty fun. We have the 3 layers. Now I want to give you this code. I want to offer it to you. That's not the gift that I want to give you at the end of the class, but I want to give you this code. So to do this, I have to go to GitHub, and I want to make this open source. So anyone in the world can use this. So all I have to do is I have to create a new file called yoga.html. And then at the end of the class, you have access to this code, which I'll give it to you. But also all the community on GitHub has access to this code, which makes it open source. And anyone can do anything with it because I made it available. So that's how you open source something. Okay? All right, so let's go back to the slides. I hope the coding session made sense. And now I'm going to talk about a few things that I want to talk, some definitions. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the frameworks. So let's say you have to write a book. Again, you could see a book as something like a toolkit or a framework. I love that analogy because a book gives you a lot of guidelines on how to organize your text. It tells you that you should have a cover, you should have a summary at the end, you should have references, you should have chapters, table of content. And when we code, we have something similar. It's not called a book, but it's called a framework. And that framework helps us organize our code in a very structural way. And a lot of companies are asking us to learn frameworks for a specific reason because they make the code a lot more maintainable. So one of them is, for example, Bootstrap. It's made by Twitter and used by Twitter, and they've open sourced this. And it's made of HTML and CSS. So at the end of the day, you still write HTML and CSS just like I did, but it helps us making sure that our website looks good on tablets, on TVs, on desktop, on laptops, and then on phones. And we call this responsive design. And by just writing some HTML and CSS in the way that Bootstrap likes it, then it's going to look good. And I use it on all my websites, and also Twitter uses it, but also a lot of different websites. But you don't want to learn Bootstrap before you learn HTML and CSS, because you wouldn't want to learn how to write French poetry before you learn French. And it's the same thing, but it's actually pretty simple to learn. Not as hard as French poetry, thank God. All right, so the next thing is we also have a framework for JavaScript. So I talked about JavaScript, but we also have frameworks for JavaScript. So the most popular one, hands down, is called React. It's made by Facebook. It's open source, as we saw earlier. And it helps us making our JavaScript more organized because JavaScript gets really messy very fast. And React is very powerful. They develop it a lot. It's used by all these companies, so not only Facebook and Instagram, but also Twitter and PayPal and Netflix, Dropbox. And also because all these companies are using this, smaller companies like SheCodes or UpLabs are also using React. And so it's getting a lot of traction. And now that you can learn React, actually Facebook made it available so you can write JavaScript and build apps for not just the web, but also iPhones, Android, Mac, and Windows. So JavaScript is a very safe bet because React is really, really big. And React at the end of the day is still JavaScript. So just keep that in mind. React is JavaScript. It's just a layer on top of it that helps you organize your files and your code. But you should never trust a dude like me who's telling you what you should learn. You should always trust data. So what I like to use is Google Trends because they identify what's trendy right now on Google, and they make it open, available to everyone. And you can see here that the yellow line is called jQuery, like this here. And this is a framework that a lot of people are teaching you, but it's clearly dying, so you don't want to learn this. The yellow one is Angular. It's made by Google, and it's also starting to die, where the blue line, which is React, is clearly taking off. But this is worldwide. It's always good to see what's happening in the US because this is a trendsetter. So in the US, if we have some Americans here, we can see that clearly React is taking off, and you can see that this is a pretty safe bet. And actually, I'd argue that even San Francisco is the trendsetter, so you can even go more granular. All right, so React is fun. There's a lot of jobs. Junior React developers are really well paid, but you have to learn JavaScript first. Now, one thing that I want to talk about, a final definition, is called APIs. So APIs is something that to me is very fascinating because they allow us to talk to other applications with one line of code. So earlier I said what happens to the email that we typed in the yoga page. And I told you we'll talk about APIs. So an API would allow me to send this email to another piece of code, like a server, like Google or MailChimp or Dropbox or anywhere. And so we could store it somewhere. So an API is like SMS where we can send messages, but API would allow us to talk to any other applications. And this stuff is huge. With one line of code, you can talk to Spotify and ask for all Beyonce's songs. You can talk to Bank of America and make a bank transfer, talk to Uber, and then ask for a ride with code. So you can build businesses around code, or you can build applications that are using other applications. And that makes the whole ecosystem of technology extremely, extremely solid. And this is why APIs, and everyone is talking about APIs, but it's just one line of code of JavaScript to make it work. So it's not actually rocket science. All right, so how about you? Why you should learn how to code? Because you are interested in learning how to code. That's why you came to this class, and congratulations on making that step. But now, why should you learn how to code? So first of all, if you feel inspired and you want to become developers or engineers, then you have to practice. There's no secret. You have to learn how to code to become an engineer. Now, Now the second option, the second reason why you should learn how to code is because tech companies, aka most companies these days, are not just hiring developers. So a lot of people think that developers, companies like Google or Apple, are just hiring engineers. But you'd be surprised that most of the people they hire, it's not related to development. It's actually like IT recruiters or sales managers, tech support engineers, product developers, product designers, product managers. So there's a lot of jobs that are being created outside of engineers. It's not just engineers. Plus, tech companies are not just Apple and Google. It's most companies these days. I was talking to a friend. He's working for Volkswagen, and he told me that they don't see them they don't see themselves as a car company. They see themselves as a tech company because software is what run the cars now. So most companies are turning into tech companies, and also they don't just hire developers. But it's still really crucial that you learn how to code, in my opinion, because you will have to work with developers on a day-to-day basis, or when you go to meetings, they will talk about APIs, GitHub, JavaScript, and so they will talk about all these terms. And so if we understand this, it will just accelerate your career. And probably if we have some of you who are already working in tech, you are working with developers, and I wouldn't be surprised if you told me, yeah, but I have problem communicating with them. They are very arrogant, grumpy, they're impatient. And actually, by learning how to code, they will love you for this, and you will develop a lot of empathy. So it will improve a lot your communication skills with them, and they will love you back. Plus, it's a huge plus if you tell recruiters or companies you want to apply to that you've learned how to code and you can prove to code, and I will talk about this later. Now, the beauty of code as well is that it's a global language. So wherever you live in the world, Los Angeles, France, Italy, England, and Canada, Australia, you don't have to worry about the limitation of borders, because the JavaScript in Japan is the same in Los Angeles and it's the same in Montreal or in London. So you don't have to worry about this. It's a completely global language. Myself, I've lived in 12 countries thanks to learning how to code. Then professional coders get freedom and great income. This is not a secret. It's really well paid. You can look it up how much money they make, but it's really well paid. And there's a lot of freedom attached to it because there's a lot of demand for developers. And anyone can do it. It doesn't matter how good you are at math, or if you like cables, or if you have the brand new latest computer. What matters here is, are you motivated to learn? Are you able to commit 5 hours a week to learn how to code? This is the main question you can ask yourself. It's not how old you are, or do I have can I do this, or I'm not used to blah blah blah. There's no excuse here. I've seen this happening with thousands of women. What matters here is, are you motivated and do you want to learn? Because it's super fun and it's not rocket science. So where should you learn how to code? So the first options here are the free ones or the almost free ones. Maybe some of you or most of you have tried this. So we have Udemy, Free Code Camp, YouTube. So these are affordable. There's a bunch of them. It's a jungle out there. But the problem is that they are just videos. So you just watch a dude writing code for 50 hours, but you are not going to practice. It's like me, who is watching those videos about salsa, and people are dancing salsa for hours, but I don't practice. Do you think I'm getting better at it? No. So it's the same thing for writing code. You have to code. So there's little to no practice. Most of the time there's no practice. And most importantly, you don't have any support. So no one will help you if you get stuck. And getting stuck in coding is the main problem. So it's very simple to get stuck. Let's go back to my yoga page here. If I scroll down to my code here, and I just change one character here from E uppercase to E lowercase, you see here, and I reload. Now I click on here, it doesn't work anymore. I can click, nothing happens. And what happened here is we'd look at your code for hours, and then you'll be like, I don't understand. I just did exactly what he did on the video, and it's not working. So then you would decide to go on a forum called Stack Overflow, which is the most popular programming forum, but it takes 25 days to get an answer, and someone will tell you, actually, you have to write E uppercase like this, and now it's going to work again. So that's why coding is so hard to learn, and that's why the solutions that I was talking now, only 3% of people are completing them. So that's why I came up with SheCodes, which has 92% completion rates, and it's really, really well rated to address all these problems here. So let me talk about the solution here so you can have a look at how it works. So SheCodes workshops are based on what I learned on site. So I learned how to teach, and I've applied everything online, and now it's working even better online. So the way it works is every week you have weekly deadlines. So every week I'll give you some exercises, and we'll talk about this now, but you have to commit 5 hours. It's flexible. You can do it whenever. You don't have to do it on a specific day. There's no live classes or anything like this. You have to commit those 5 hours a week. You can do it in 2 chunks of 2.5 hours or 3 times 2 hours. And each week you have a topic like HTML and CSS for the first week, then JavaScript. Then you have to work on a project, just like I did with the yoga page, and you have to build it using professional tools. You don't learn how to code in the browser, which I think is crazy because you have to type all these annoying characters one by one. You might have tried this. You use VS Code, and I teach you professional tools that companies would ask you to use. Now, the way it works is I built something called that I like to call the baby step approach. So every time you have to learn something during the week, you have a lesson which is recorded by myself, and I explain to you a very specific topic. So during the week, I'm just going to open it here, you have a few lessons to go through. So this is week number 1, for example. And then let's say you want to learn about CSS colors. You have to do them in the order. Then you have a video waiting for me with documentation. And after this, once you watch the video, it's a short video, like 8 to 12 minutes, very condensed. Then I give you a challenge where you have to solve a little challenge. You have to rebuild something. And I explain to you in the video what I'm expecting you to do. Then you submit it. And then you have a solution video where I explain to you how it works. And I even give you the source code for that solution so you can compare it and try it again. So you have to do a few videos like this each week. And at the end of each week, you have a homework. So that homework, which also can be done on your own time, obviously, is a bigger exercise. It summarizes everything you've learned this week, and you have to work on that exercise, and then after this, again, you have the solution from me. And us at the team She Codes, we actually review your homework to make sure you're on the right track. So that's why we can provide a verified certificate. So we check your homework and your project. Now, what if you get stuck? Because I told you earlier, you will get stuck if you learn how to code. So what happens if you get stuck while doing those exercises? Don't worry. So at the top here, as you can see, we have a button, Get Help on Slack. And this will open a channel on your Slack where you are going to get live support. So the way it works is not only you will meet all the women who are joining. So like today we have women joining from the Netherlands, Germany, Nashville, London, North Carolina, I mean, etc., etc. We have a lot of women joining. But most importantly, you can use this Slack to ask technical questions. Like here, Dani, she asked that question to say, hey, I'm working on this. Can you please help me? And then here we have a technical assistant helping her. And then at the end, she's completely satisfied because she's unstuck. And this is a huge relief. She can keep coding. And now she's probably building her project. So you have access to this when you join She Codes. They share the LinkedIn, but also most importantly, you can get support, which is the most important thing. All right, so that's how it works, and it's working really well because you have this access to support, and it's including on our workshop. But it doesn't stop there. At the end, you also have access to a verified certificate because we check your work, and I sign a certificate that you can, which looks like this, and you can share it on your LinkedIn. We have a partnership with LinkedIn where you can actually showcase it here and then add it to your resume. It's always good to show that you've been learning how to code, so we make sure you can showcase that. All right, so I want to talk about the She Codes workshops now. So we don't call them courses, we call them workshops because they are very, very hands-on. You have access to a whole community, live support, and also all these active learning methods that I've mentioned before. And we have access to 4 different packages, and I will talk about them individually now. So we have She Codes Basics, we have also She Codes Plus, She Codes Pro, and She Codes Max, and they all have different purposes. So She Codes Basics, by the way, they're all 100% online. Lasts for 3 weeks if you can spend only 5 hours a week studying, but if you can spend 15 to 20 hours a week, basically full time, that's you can take it in only 1 week. So She Codes Basics is a great workshop. You will have to build a real life project. It's designed for absolute beginners, and then you will learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, the real basics of them, and then also VS Code, but you'll be amazed with what you can build in just 3 weeks. So She Codes Basics is a great option for the ones who've never tried to learn how to code. You have no idea if you are going to like it. You just want to give it a try. You just want to give it a try, see if you like this, and then later you can decide if you want to upgrade or not. That's the first option. Now, She Codes Plus, which includes She Codes Basics, by the way, is also 100% online, just like any other packages. But this one lasts for 3 months if you can study 5 hours a week, or 5 weeks if you can study full time. She Codes Basics includes 2 real life projects, the one from She Codes Basics and then also She Codes Plus project. It's also designed for absolute beginners, but here you will learn also HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, but in a much more advanced way, including also VS Code. There will be a lot more JavaScript in She Codes Plus, but you also see the potential of coding. You'll see how amazing it is to play with APIs, how to store your code on GitHub, how to use Bootstrap to build websites really fast, and also how to host your website on a server. So who is She Codes Plus for? She Codes Plus 4 is ideal for women who are working in tech or who want to work in tech, but are not necessarily willing to have a technical job. So I'm talking about the ones who want to work in HR, in sales, in recruitment, for example. So anything that doesn't have to be technical. Now, She Codes Pro, which includes She Codes Plus and She Codes Basics, by the way, is a longer program. It lasts for 6 months if you can study 5 hours a week, or you can do it over 8 weeks if you can study full time. And by the way, the deadlines adjust, so you could do it over 3 months, for example, if you can spend a little bit more than 5 hours a week. And this one includes 4 real life projects, also for absolute beginners. But you will learn a lot more about web development. So you will not only learn about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And by the way, this never stops. There's a lot of things to learn about JavaScript, for example. And then in She Codes Pro, you'll learn so much. But you also learn about API, GitHub, Bootstrap, and then how to host a website. But most importantly, you learn about Flexbox, which allows you to place elements where you want. You learn about SEO, which helps you make sure that Google finds your website, and we call this search engine optimization, and I'll teach you how you can do it through code.
Then you will also learn about responsive development, which helps you make your website responsive, which means that it looks good on mobile devices, on tablets, and also on desktop, and which nowadays is crucial. And then finally, you'll learn about React and why React has so much potential. You'll have a dedicated workshop just about React with SheCodes React. So in SheCodes Pro, you will learn a lot more about coding, and this is a program that is really, really suitable for the women who want to work in tech or who are already working in tech, but as a technical job. So I'm talking about, for example, if you are a product manager, a product designer, if you're working in marketing, because nowadays marketing is more and more technical, or if you want to work in tech support, for example, this is a great option. I highly recommend SheCodes Pro. Now, SheCodes Max, which is our most complete program, which also includes SheCodes Pro, and it's also 100% online, has a longer duration. It lasts for 8 months. It has everything that we have to offer at SheCodes. It also lasts for 12 weeks in total if you can do it full time, but it has a lot more projects. SheCodes Pro had 4 real life projects. This one will have 8 real life projects. It's amazing for your portfolio. By the way, one of these projects will be your very own portfolio. It's designed for absolute beginners, and you'll be amazed with what you can learn with this program. And then you will learn a lot about HTML, CSS, JavaScript, but also React. You will learn a lot about responsive development, how to use custom fonts, how to build a grid in CSS, and how to build responsive, how to make it SEO friendly. You will learn so much, and at the end, you'll be able to, or even before the end, you'll be able to apply for jobs such as front-end developers, front-end engineers, web developers, web engineers, React developers. There will be a lot of jobs that will be able to apply by joining SheCodes Max. So this is our most complete option. And again, you have 4 options. You have SheCodes Basics, Plus, Pro, and Max. Basics is for the ones who never coded before but want to give it a try. SheCodes Plus is great if you want to work in tech or already working in tech but in a non-technical job. SheCodes Pro is great for the ones who want to work in tech as a technical job or as a job that is highly related with or involves communicating with developers. And then SheCodes Max is good for the ones who want to become professional developers. So each workshop includes a lot of things. Not only you have access to the material and all the videos and the coding challenges, but we'll also review your homework and your projects, the team, just to make sure you're on the right track. You'll have access to live chat support. This is included in all workshops. And then also you have weekly deadlines, which, by the way, can be adjusted. You can get extension. You can do the workshop faster based on your time, based on your life, basically, and whatever, how much time you can spend on learning how to code. And then you also have access to lifetime access, including updates, because we keep updating all the content, the videos on a weekly basis. Now, SheCodes Max has additional features. It not only has all the workshops that we have to offer and a very complete option, it also has access to priority support. So you'll have access to email and technical priority support, which means that we'll answer your technical questions before everyone else, so you have a faster response time, and so you can make progress faster. You will also have a detailed career handbook giving you email templates and some advice on how to get a job. But you also have access to SheCodes Next, which is a career workshop, which teaches you how to make a nice portfolio, how to build your resume, make your resume, how to apply for jobs, how to improve your LinkedIn and how to update your LinkedIn, how to find job leads, how to make sure you send the right email to the right person, and also how to network with other developers and anyone who is in the tech industry, and then finally how to keep growing your skills. This is SheCodes Next, and it's only included in SheCodes Max. And then also SheCodes Max gives you an extra certification because you've completed all SheCodes workshop, which is the front-end developer certification that you can use on your LinkedIn to prove that you've completed all our workshops. So this is included in SheCodes Max. So you have all the details by going to shecodes.io/workshops. We have employees from a lot of different renowned companies who went through SheCodes and who are now working for these companies, or who used to work in these companies and now are working in other companies. We've had hundreds of thousands of students who've been through our workshops, and the average rating is over 4.9 out of 5. And you can check out all the reviews by going to shecodes.io and read what they say about our workshops.
So I promised you a gift, and I will use a code to send you that gift. So I'm going to send you a coupon of 15% that you can apply to any of those workshops for 24 hours. So let me just open my terminal here, and this is what a backend developer does. I think it's it's very interesting thing to show you because a lot of people don't really know what backend is. So the first thing that I'm doing here, and you see there's no screen or anything like this, is I'm going to connect to the server of SheCodes. So I'm connecting to the server of SheCodes right now, which is far away from where I live. It's in the Netherlands. It's hosted at Amazon, so Amazon owns the server, but it has my code on it. And I'm going to use this so I can send you this coupon. And so to do this, I'll show you how it works. So first of all, I have access to this computer now. I can make this a little bit smaller like this. And I can talk to this server. It's like talking to a computer. I can say, hey, what is 2 plus 2? Okay, pretty boring, but it says 4. Okay, so how many students have we had? Student.count, okay, 7,377. So this is what a backend or Python developer is doing pretty much. You see there's no screen or anything like this. So finally, what I can do is I can send you this gift. And what I'm just going to tell, writing some code, that I want the code to write some, to send you this email with the coupon. So now it's generating the email one at a time, and it's sending you this coupon. So you get it in a few minutes. So that's what a backend developer is doing. And now you will have this coupon in your inbox. And that's what I do when I send emails, for example. So that's the difference between front end and back end. And I think that's why you want to start with front end, because it's a lot more fun. All right, so again, all the workshops are starting on Monday. You can have a look at the definition on the descriptions on the workshop page. And now I'm going to go through Q&A. So you have all the details about those 3 workshops here on the coding workshops page. All right, so let's go through the Q&A. So I've compiled, because I've been doing this so many times, I've compiled the best questions that I got from students, and I'm going to address them one at a time. So technical questions. What is the difference between designer and a front-end developer? So a designer, and it's a very good question because I think a lot of people are getting confused. A designer is someone who likes to draw things on the screen. So a designer will just draw like rectangles and then circles to make it look like a button. But at the end, it's not going to work. It's not going to be a working prototype. So you'll have to hire or you'll have to work with developers to make it, to turn this into coding. So usually companies don't need full-time designers, but they need a lot of front-end developers because it takes around 10 times longer to build something versus the amount of design. Now, can you focus on becoming a front-end developer without learning back-end? Absolutely. Specializing is the key. So you want to specialize in something like React, and it would just help you a lot knowing where you're going and knowing which job you want to tackle or which company you want to work for. Now, do you have any classes for SQL, Python, PHP, or any backend languages? No, we don't. As I mentioned before, it's better with a hands-on workshop like this to start with front-end. Does coding consist of a lot of memorizing? No, we have Google and VS Code to assist us a lot, so you don't have to memorize everything. As I mentioned earlier, my memory is pretty bad. All right, let's talk about career questions. So do you need to build a portfolio? Yes, it's always good to have a proof that you can code. And we help you with SheCodes because at the end of our workshops, you actually have a project that is being showcased. So we assist you with this. So for example, this is some examples from students who went through the 3-week workshop, so the art of Tim Burton here. And that's really cool because we help you hosting this so you can actually share this with a potential employer and say, hey, this is what I've built. I coded this myself. I'm interested in working with you. I saw that you had a job. Do you wanna meet up? This is another project that a student built. Anna here, 7 benefits of growing succulents at home. Pretty cool project. And this one also has JavaScript. It's part of their requirement. And then finally, this is more of a project that is more useful in the sense because you can get the weather anywhere in the world. I can go to New York in real time. So the beauty of this is in Celsius, by the way. The beauty of this is that this is working. It's using API, so it's fetching, it's getting data from real life data. And with a project like this, you can really go far. And this was built after SheCodes plus React. So now you might be thinking, what happens after it? So what can happen after this is, for example, this woman here, Joanna, she shared that she learned React, and then she went through SheCodes, and she shared her project that I just showed you. And this is the response she got. She got a bunch of people saying, "Hey, I want to meet up. Let's talk. Let's meet up for a." But it's not small companies. It's also like Amazon. So she got a lot of visibility. I'll share that link at the end of the class. Now we have a bunch of stories on the website how it helped, like a tax consultant at Deloitte, but also people turning into developers. You can go to the SheCodes website and see all the success stories, or click on coders here and see all the graduates that are currently graduating in real time and see what they say. We have thousands of them, and you can see how much they love coding now. All right, so do I have to have a computer science degree to learn how to code, and do you think it's necessary to have a degree? So no, I don't think so. If I had to do it again, I wouldn't do it myself. Just to give you some data on this, because you learn old stuff there, so companies know this. So last year in the US, 60% of companies who were looking for developers asked for a computer science degree, and now it's 50%, so it's losing momentum. Is learning how to code good if you want to get into UX design? Yes, we call you a full stack designer. It would actually help you being more valuable than the other designers because you'll learn how to code. And if you learn how to code, you will know what's possible in design and what's not possible. So it just makes you a better designer, and it's very important that you highlight that. After learning the fundamentals, how can you become a better programmer? Getting a job or practicing. There's no secret here. It's like salsa. You need to dance. Here you need to code, and ideally you want to get paid for it because it's well paid, and a lot of people are looking for developers who are motivated. All right, so questions about SheCodes. What is the price of the workshop here? So you'll find all the prices if you go to coding workshops or learn to code, and you will have all the prices here on your page. After this, do you have to install anything for this workshop? Yes, just VS Code and a couple of other things if you do SheCodes Plus, but it's all free, so you don't have to pay for anything else. Can this be done if I have a full-time job? Yes, absolutely. If you have a baby or if you have other commitment like this, no problem at all. You just have to organize yourself and those 5 hours a week, no problem. We all have a busy life, and this is designed for it. You have to be a certain age for this. No, we have students from 15 to 60 years old, and I wouldn't be surprised if we can increase that range. What do you offer? So the age doesn't really matter. Do you offer to students? What do you offer to students and those who are unemployed? So we offer discounts to the longer workshop to students and unemployed. You just have to. It's just for SheCodes Plus and SheCodes Plus React. You have to click on this link here, contact us for a discount, and you apply, and then we'll get back to you with a discount, which is different to the 15% discount that I sent you. Can we do the workshop faster? Yes, absolutely. If you have more time right now, you can do it faster. I'd recommend up to 3 times faster. Actually, faster is better, but more than 3 times faster is a little bit too much, I think. So if you can commit those 15 hours a week, then that's fine. You can do this. If you're completing the 3-week workshop, can you upgrade to the 3 months or the 4 months one? Yes, you can absolutely upgrade. You won't have to do the 3-week one again, and we have a special upgrade price. But just keep in mind that the coupon won't apply on that upgrade. So the coupon only applies in today and tomorrow, and only on the first your first purchase. How flexible is the program? What if I'm traveling? No problem. You can do 2 weeks into 1 week, so you can go ahead and then you can after this catch up, or you can take breaks in between different stages that you reach. So it's actually designed if you wanna stop. But on the other side, I'd recommend not to stop for more than a week because you start forgetting. Can I join Plus or Plus React directly? No, you have to go through the 3-week workshop because I share a lot of personal tips, how to install VS Code, how I like to code faster, and how to find emojis and all this stuff. So it's really important that you go through the 3-week workshop. You learn a lot, even if you try to learn how to code directly before. Are the lessons only offered at certain times, or do I do them at my own time? You do them at your own time as long as you respect the weekly deadlines, just those 5 hours a week. All right, so that's it for the questions. If you have any more questions, you can email us. We have a team waiting for your questions at hello@shecodes.io, or you can contact us through the contact form, shecodes.io/contact. And you will have access to all the links that I mentioned before right after this class. And I hope you enjoyed it. All the workshops are starting on Monday, and I'm doing these free classes every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. So you can don't come back to this class because it's the same content, but you can invite your mother, your sister, your colleague, your daughter, or anyone that you think that this class is interesting to them. So thank you so much for coming, and I really enjoyed teaching you this class, and I hope that you can remember a couple of things. First, coding is not boring, and it's not rocket science, and there's a lot of opportunities now to learn how to code, so I highly recommend you to learn how to code. Thank you so much, and stay safe, and I'll see you around. Bye-bye.